It's frustrating. And it's frustrating that a majority of people don't know about the financial literacy portion of it. And I don't expect them to necessarily know everything because it's not taught in our schools, man. We're screaming about culture war issues as a country. That's a distraction. Like, I hope people understand that. All this stuff you see, like, there's a ton of culture war issues. If you think it's all a distraction, it's being pushed by certain organizations and news organizations who are in cahoots because there are these big conglomerates, and they need to get this senator on, or they need to get the president on, or they need to get this person to talk to them. And it's Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, all of them, man. It's not just but they're pushing these narratives so that we aren't talking about this, which this is an issue.
Right.
Like, this is an important issue. There's a lot, or the border, or the fentanyl problem, or the whether or not opioids was known to kill people and get people addicted. Like, all the shit that's happening in our country that we should be talking about, we aren't talking about it because we want to talk about transgender literature in schools. Like, that's not an important issue compared to all of this, in my opinion. And it's just, and I don't care where you really stand on it.
Right. Comment, leave your opinion. Let's have a discussion on this, because
financial literacy, not transgender in schools.
Right. No, financial. Right. I mean, we're a financial channel, but let's discuss it, because I mean that we need to come together, have common discussions, look at it. Don't just look at media headlines.
This will affect our kids' futures more than anything else.
100%.
Especially if you're a good parent too. Like, if you're a good parent, whatever ideals you believe in, you will teach to your kids, and your kids will carry those forward. What you can't teach to your kids is how to get the U.S. government out of debt. The only way that this is going to be resolved is if people start having an understanding of it, which is why we bring it here and why we have this podcast. There's a lot of passion behind it, and it's so frustrating for me, because if you look at the literacy in schools and the amount of money going overseas to Ukraine and Russia, war, whatever, and now there's boots on the ground over there apparently, but only at the consulate. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that they're distracting us from talking about. And I say I'm not saying necessarily government, but the media is not talking about because it's not getting the clicks. People need to start realizing what's going to affect our grandkids.
Yes.
If we're $50 trillion in debt and I'm 34 years old, my grandkids, when I'm 84, how many trillions of dollars of debt is the country going to be in? And the only way to pay the interest portion of the payments on that debt is to increase gross domestic product. How much can you increase GDP? At some point, it slows down, and it doesn't necessarily go negative, but what if it does? Like, there's been times in history where gross domestic product has fallen. We aren't going to be able to cover the interest payments on our debt, and they want to talk about defaulting. Stop getting into debt. I bet you if we pulled the U.S. budget and saw what it actually was, and we put that out there for people, they would be like, what the hell? And some of this stuff would be like, oh, I want to spend $2,000 a month on restaurants, but you make $3,000 a month, so you're gonna spend $2,000 of it on restaurant, and it's just an example. But
you feel like we should have like financial literacy in schools a lot soon, where they don't teach it as much. Actually,
they don't teach any of it.
Oh, hardly. Like, there's 11 states out there and it's a state requirement. It's not a national requirement, right. But there's 11 states out there that do have it, and even then, a lot of it's just
electives.
Right. It's just like hey, talk about it for a couple of days. It's just in the curriculum.
I think it should be taught from the time kids are in first grade. I really do. Like, and I
was going to ask when you think it should be taught. Yep.
I think so. When I was growing up as a kid, my parents would give me chores, and we weren't well off by any means. But there would be a dollar amount tied to the chores, and a lot of times it'd be a quarter for this, 50 cents for this, and it would add up to $10 a week typically. So if I did those, I would get paid, and if I didn't get paid, and I also would get in trouble. Almost like if you don't do your job, you get fired, right? But if you do your job, you get paid, right? It incentivized me to learn that, and then when I got the $10, they always said to me, "What are you going to do with this? Are you going to invest it? How much are you going to invest? How much are you going to save? How much are you going to use, for like personal, like buying video game, whatever it was, right?" And so I would have to figure that out. That was teaching me something. That is financial literacy at an elementary level. You can start teaching these principles from the time a kid is old enough to understand 2 + 2, right? Dave Ramsey has a bunch of kids games that you can play about saving, investing, not getting into debt, so on and so forth. Monopoly is my favorite
even so,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, Monopoly is great.
So I remember in my 10th grade math class, we had it was one day. I remember the teacher came up and said,
I don't even remember 10th grade.
I remember this because he said if it was up to me, we would cover things like this way more often, but this is probably the most important thing that you will learn in this school. And it was on calculating interest and how all that applies to everything.
Yes. So that
it wasn't even a budget thing, but it was the only thing that could be tied to financial literacy. Like that was taught in the school. And it was a one-day class in the math class. The teacher even sitting there saying, you probably should learn way more on this than I'm allowed to teach you. That's the problem.
That I'm allowed to teach you is the problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a sad, I'm telling you, math, science, engineering, financial literacy. What else do we need?
I mean, trade specific things, but I mean, that should be options and on that. I mean, so we all, I now kind of want to go back to what we were saying before about how important it is to have these discussions, because you know what you should do on that. You need to subscribe to this channel. You need to leave comments, because we all want to have conversations. You might not agree with us. Tell us that. Do your own research. Come back and have other ideas. I'm sure there's things out there that we don't know about. So do your own research, because that is how us as a community is going to grow and learn. We're building and that's what we're building. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're building. We're not sitting here saying, oh, you should listen to us, because we're not the government. We're trying to bring you things that you aren't hearing out there, that if you watch the news, if you look at things, you're not necessarily hearing. Now, I mean, a lot of what is more common now with like YouTube and things like that. You're getting some more different sides of it and different takes, which is great. And that's what we're here to provide as well from the financial side. So please follow this channel. Please leave a like, comment, help us grow so that we can get the word out, so that we can build a community to have these discussions to improve as a country. I mean, that's
as a country,
as a community, in a country.
And that's what we're building. And we're big into home ownership. So we do believe in community, right?
Right.
And I believe in lifting up our communities. Even if we have differences with people in our community, we have to lift each other up. Plain and simple. Rising tide lifts all ships. And the reason we are so passionate about this and these conversations and this podcast is because I'm not sitting here telling y'all I know everything. I think I do sometimes. But when somebody presents a new idea to me, and it can change my perspective. And because I know I don't know everything, which is why I enjoy people and listening to people. So we want to lift up the community. Let's lift up our community. Tell people about this community. Mortgage, real estate, world happenings apparently. But it all ties into our economy and housing market and bond prices and interest rates. So.